Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin. Thanks for tuning into our podcast, The Secret War on Cash, where we take an in-depth look at some of the changes or developments that are literally taking place right before our eyes in the global marketplace, our domestic marketplace, the economies of both. And I have with me my co-host, Chris Agelastos, who is here to discuss some of these changes with us today. Chris, how are you this fine day?
Doing well, running around like crazy, but that's a good thing.
Well, things have been hopping, so it's a good thing to be running around. And if you're not running around, then you're probably not doing something right. When you're in our type of market and our type of business as we're in right now.
For sure.
This is actually going to be an interesting little podcast. It's kind of the first little shift here we've seen in quite a while as it pertains to what's been happening with the alliance known as BRICS. So let's get right on into it here. We've got that BRICS makes major announcement on de-dollarization. And I don't want to put words into anyone else's mouth or ears here, but this kind of was a little shocking and a little odd to me because what they're talking about here is that you have some of the major BRICS participants, what was it, India and Brazil,
Yep.
that they have no interest, as they're saying, in de-dollarization. But why that's a little confusing and interesting at the same time is that Brazil was just saying, not only it was not even 2 weeks ago, I don't believe it was, that they were on the forefront of de-dollarization, and India was kind of chiming in a little bit as well. So now we've got a major shifting of gears, and then in fact it goes on to even talk a little bit more about how, really the people leading the charge predominantly you have is China and Russia in terms of de-dollarization. But what's going on here, Chris? Because it seems like someone seems as though they're talking out of both sides of their mouth at this point.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some infighting going on. And this obviously is good news for us, good news for the US dollar. There's a little bit we have to speculate a little bit here. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that this doesn't have something to do with President Trump getting back into office and being vocal about, wanting to strengthen the dollar. And a lot of his tariff talks on against people who are going to hurt our economy or hurt our currency. Now, there's other things here too, which I didn't realize until looking into this more, that some of the nations within BRICS, even though they're working together in a lot of ways, there's maybe some concerns about China kind of taking things over and really going for global dominance themselves. And India, I think, is one of the nations that expressed concern about that. So all the kids aren't exactly playing nice together, and for them to come out and yeah, which if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. But it's interesting that they actually came out and made this statement, right? I mean, if they just had no interest all along in going against the dollar, they wouldn't really have to say anything. They would just not do it. But for them to actually come out and make this statement, and especially it coming directly from India, and it's alleged that Brazil is going to make a similar statement here soon from insiders that they wouldn't name. That India, just I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago we were talking about this on a podcast, was sort of hinting along the lines of we love the U.S. dollar, we support the U.S. dollar, and they didn't really address the BRICS side of it. But now they're coming out and saying that they have absolutely no interest in undermining the U.S. dollar. So, and then you have South Africa and the UAE sort of on the sidelines, not really saying anything one way or the other. And Russia, China, and Iran obviously aggressively supporting de-dollarization. So at the very least, I think this is going to slow things down a little bit for them at the moment. I don't know if it's enough to completely halt de-dollarization. But certainly if they can't get everybody on board, and now it's just Russia, China, and Iran, which not to say just as in, they have no influence, they certainly do, but it's definitely a blow to their organization if they can't get everybody together to agree.
Sure. Well, you're absolutely right. This is some of I would say actually some of the best news for the U.S. that we've gotten as it pertains to this BRICS alliance, really from the beginning. And, I think it speaks to the fact that what's happening here, with Brazil and India taking the position they are, it speaks to the fact that which I always wondered if this was kind of one of the challenges they run into, because look, at the end of the day, Russia wants to be the one to push everyone around. China wants to be the one to push everyone around. Everybody's got a little bit of that in them. And not everybody's bringing, the same cards to the table, if you will. And so it would make sense that there would be, a little bit of infighting back and forth. And I think, Trump certainly with his tariff, we'll say threats, but promises was probably a little bit instrumental in, causing that shift and causing that change. But let's look at this second article here, because, the confusion I think is going to continue for a little while until something really definitive happens, which would only be like, the BRICS alliance becoming more united, and or some kind of dissipation of the BRICS alliance. Because as we're looking at here, this is really same basic deal. Like BRICS looks to blockchain for alliance payment system. So, you see stuff like this, you start reading, and they talk about India, they talk about Brazil, and it looks as though there's this united front that exists. But then, again, and it goes back to 2 weeks ago, where Brazil was very vocal about what their intentions were in terms of de-dollarization and furthering the BRICS alliance, and then boom, all of a sudden there's just a massive shifting of gears. So, I mean, do you think that we're going to see a lot more of this flip-flopping, or do you think that, like for instance, this blockchain in the currency system, those we were told last year numerous times were kind of in place and kind of literally ready to go? Do you think that's something that's not going to happen now?
Yeah, I think it still will happen. But the question is it going to have as big of an impact? And perhaps if they're only looking at doing a blockchain, which is really what we've heard the most about, that right there may impact their ability to really dethrone the dollar. I mean, if you think about how many dollars are in circulation around the world and being used for other nations to support them as a reserve currency, and all the individual economies when you travel around the world that use and accept the US dollar, and not everybody is on board with blockchain yet. So I think if they are just looking at blockchain and maybe using it as a way to do trade amongst their own nations, but not really, dethrone the dollar as far as it being a reserve currency, I could see that continuing to happen. I could see, India and Brazil being completely on board with that and creating this blockchain for use amongst their own nations, but still continuing to use the dollar as it pertains to, backing up their own currencies. So we're just going to have to watch it and see. It could go either way. You also can't rule out the fact that they could be saying one thing for political reasons and doing another behind the scenes that we're not aware of. So I think it's just something we're going to have to watch unfold and keep an eye on it and see ultimately where it goes. But at the very least, I would say there was a lot more positive for the U.S. dollar and negative for BRICS this week than there has been in a long time, and that's nice to see, at least from my perspective.
No, very nice to see. I mean, it speaks to, look, it's the same situation we're in here in the United States. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts right now, as President Trump is now looking into getting into blockchain and digital currency, et cetera, and they're trying to figure things out over there as far as the BRICS nations. So, I mean, it makes sense. There's a lot of question marks out there. It's just, again, a lot of what we're reading now flies in the face of what we read or what we were told before. And so trying to figure out which is the most accurate, the least inaccurate thing, that's kind of the challenge. So, all right, well, this is all kind of that ties in with the report Secret War, which this podcast is titled after. So let people know how they could get a free copy of Secret War, Chris, so they can learn more about this and other things.
Yeah, either go to the website, SwissAmerica.com, all one word, and you can enter your information there. You can also click to dial our phone actually directly from the website these days with modern technology. Our telephone number itself is 1-800. Actually, I would call the easiest way to do it is 1-800-BUY-COIN. That's really the best way to keep our number on the tip of your tongue. But it's 1-800-289-2646. You can also text. You can email us even directly from the website there. So getting a hold of us is easy. Just get us your info. Tell us what some of your concerns are, or even just request the War on Cash report. We'll get that out to you to start. And as always, our information is complimentary. We're not going to ask for your credit card or try to hit you up for dollars. We're just really getting the information out there.
Well, fantastic. In all the years I've been doing this, as you mentioned, 1-800-BUY-COIN. Over the years, I learned the hard way. You need to clarify that. It's BUYCOIN.
Right. That's right.
BYE, not
Good, yeah.
BI.
Good point.
Not there was I think one other variation. Not BY, BYE, BY, and BI. So it's BUYCOIN.
So maybe it is easier to just give out the number.
It's more. It's a little more foolproof. We'll put it that way. But
there you go.
Nonetheless, thank you for that, and thanks for all of you who've tuned in. If you're not subscribed to our podcast, please do so, as we'd love to reach out to you and bring you more information like this in the future. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again real soon.